Hello students, in this video we will learn how the British colonial power under the Royal Crown consolidated their power over the remaining parts of the Indian subcontinent after defeating the Marathas and conquering the southern and eastern India. Let's start by learning their relationships with various regional powers which existed in the early 19th century and how they used them. In the 19th century, to the northeast of the British territories lay the Kingdom of Bhutan. In 1865, the Bhutanese were forced to surrender the passes to the British in return for an annual subsidy. These surrendered districts became productive areas with tea gardens, providing economic benefits to the British. From the eastern frontiers of Bhutan, the British turned their attention to the northern territories and the rising challenge posed by the Gorkhas. Conflict began after the English annexed Gorakhpur in 1801 and escalated with Gorkhas capturing Butwal and Syoraj. War ended with the Treaty of Sagoli in 1816, which favored the British. Nepal accepted a British resident, ceded Gadwal and Kumon districts, abandoned claims to Terai, and withdrew from Sikkim. This gave British better trade facilities with Central Asia and sites for hill stations like Shimla. While the British secured their northern approaches, they soon had to contend with threats emerging from the east, particularly in Burma. The First Burma War from 1824 to 1826 was triggered by Burma's expansion westwards and occupation of Arakan and Manipur. British forces occupied Rangoon and reached near the capital at Ava. The Treaty of Yandabo in 1826 required Burma to pay 1 crore rupees as compensation, cede coastal provinces, and abandon claims on Assam. Although the First Burma War brought temporary gains, commercial ambitions and imperial interests soon pushed the British into a second conflict. The Second Burma War in 1852 resulted from British commercial interests and Lord Dalhousie's imperialist policy. British merchants sought timber resources of Upper Burma and further access to Burmese markets, leading to additional territorial acquisitions. This imperial expansion culminated in a final clash, sealing British dominance over the Burmese kingdom. The Third Burma War in 1885 was sparked when King Thibaw imposed a humiliating fine on a British timber company. Lord Dufferin ordered the invasion and final annexation of Upper Burma, completing British control over the region. Having secured Burma, British interests now shifted toward Tibet, a region of religious importance and strategic value. Tibet was ruled by a theocracy of Buddhist monks, lamas, under nominal Chinese influence. Youngisban dictated terms requiring Tibet to pay 75 lakh rupees indemnity, later reduced to 25 lakh rupees. Britain gained occupation of Chumbi Valley, respect for the Sikkim frontier, and control over Tibet's foreign affairs. China ultimately benefited from the situation due to the Anglo-Russian Convention of 1907. The treaty established trade marts at Yatung, Gyanse, and Gartok, while restricting Tibet from granting concessions for railways, roads, or telegraph to any foreign state except Britain. Beyond Tibet, the British were increasingly concerned about securing the northwestern frontier of India, especially in light of growing Russian influence. The Treaty of Turcomanchai in 1828 marked the perception of Northwest Passes as key entry points to India. British policy aimed to ensure Afghanistan remained under a ruler friendly to British interests. Governor-General Auckland advocated for an aggressive approach, taking direct initiatives to protect British India's boundary rather than relying on buffer states. The Tripartite Treaty of 1838, an agreement between the British, Sikhs, and Shah Shuja, established British influence, with Shah Shuja conducting foreign affairs under British advice and recognizing Sikh claims over Afghan territories. To implement this influence on the ground, British forces were sent into Afghanistan. Britain implemented its forward policy to establish a barrier against potential threats from the northwest frontier. British forces invaded Afghanistan to install Shah Shuja as a puppet ruler aligned with their regional interests. The British were forced to sign a treaty in 1841 agreeing to withdraw from Afghanistan and reinstate Dost Muhammad. The campaign cost India 1.5 crore rupees and nearly 20,000 lives, ranking among Britain's most costly expansion failures. The disaster in Afghanistan prompted a strategic shift in British policy towards a more cautious, non-interventionist approach. John Lawrence advocated for a non-interventionist approach that rested on two key conditions: peace at the frontier must remain undisturbed, and no candidate in civil war should seek foreign help. This policy emphasized caution and minimal interference in Afghan affairs, allowing natural political developments to take their course without British military involvement. However, changes in British domestic politics brought a return to assertive policies in the region. Shifting geopolitical concerns and the change from liberal to conservative government in Britain led to a re-evaluation of Afghanistan policy. Lord Lytton, appointed Viceroy in 1876 as a nominee of Benjamin Disraeli's Conservative government, implemented a more aggressive foreign policy called Proud Reserve. This approach aimed at establishing scientific frontiers and safeguarding British spheres of influence, marking a significant shift toward more direct intervention in Afghan affairs. Consequently, British military engagement in Afghanistan resumed. Sher Ali fled during the British invasion. The British gradually expanded their control in India through military conquest and political alliances, leading to the Treaty of Gandamak in May 1879 with his son Yaqub Khan. The treaty required Afghanistan to conduct foreign policy with British advice, accept a permanent British resident in Kabul, and receive British support against foreign aggression. A compromise was reached by drawing the Durand Line between Afghan and British territories, creating a formal boundary that continues to influence regional politics today. To ensure better administrative control and security, internal frontier reorganization followed. Viceroy Curzon, from 1899 to 1905, followed a policy of withdrawal and concentration, creating the Northwest Frontier Province directly under the Government of India's control. In January 1932, the NWFP was constituted as a Governor's province. Since 1947, this territory has belonged to Pakistan, demonstrating the lasting impact of British imperial boundary making. Meanwhile, on the Western Front, the British sought commercial opportunities in Sindh. English established a factory at Tat in 1758 through a parwana from Kallora Prince Ghulam Shah. By 1761, Ghulam Shah granted the English exclusive trading rights, prohibiting other Europeans until 1775. The Baluch Talpura tribe migrated from the hills to Sindh's plains in the 1770s. By 1783, under Mir Fath Ali Khan's leadership, they had established complete control over Sindh. This rising local power soon attracted British diplomatic and commercial interest. The Talpuras built a formidable regional power by conquering Amarkot from Jodhpur, Karachi from Laz, and Shakarpur and Bukkar from the Afghans. Under Tipu Sultan's influence, the Amir expelled the British agent from Sindh in 1800, temporarily halting British influence. British diplomats were sent to strategic locations. Both parties agreed to exclude the French from Sindh and exchange diplomatic representatives. Colonel Pottinger negotiated free passage through Sindh for British traders and use of the Indus for commerce, with military restrictions, in the Treaty of 1832. Under threat, the Amirs accepted a treaty in 1839 allowing British forces at strategic points and agreed to pay 3 lakh rupees annually for their maintenance. Events in neighboring Afghanistan further shaped British actions in Sindh. The First Anglo-Afghan War from 1839 to 1842 further weakened local authority. By 1843, Governor-General Ellenborough annexed Sindh to the British Empire with Charles Napier as its first governor. Coming from Afghanistan, it puts one in mind of a bully who has been knocked in the street and went home to beat his wife in revenge. Elphinstone's scathing comment perfectly captures the widespread criticism of Britain's annexation of Sindh. Following the humiliating defeat in the First Afghan War, where the British suffered terribly at the hands of the Afghans, there was a corresponding loss of prestige. To compensate for this loss, the British sought to conquer Sindh. The annexation was widely viewed as an unjustified act of aggression against a weaker neighbor. This conquest was seen as an attempt to restore damaged British pride and military reputation after the Afghan debacle. The conquest of Sindh established a pattern of opportunistic expansion that would continue throughout British rule in India. Simultaneously, in Punjab, the Sikhs were forming a unique political and military structure that would later come into conflict with the British. In 1715, Banda Bahadur was defeated by Farrukhsiyar and executed in 1716. The Sikh polity became leaderless and later divided into two groups, Bandai, the liberal, and Tata Khalsa, the orthodox, weakening their unified resistance. In 1784, Kapoor Singh Faizullapuria organized the Sikhs under Dal Khalsa to unite followers politically, culturally, and economically. The Khalsa was formed into two sections, Budha Dal, veterans, and Taruna Dal, youth. The Sikhs consolidated in misls, an Arabic word meaning equal or alike, also referring to states. This organization helped build Sikh military and political power through a confederate structure. Amid this evolving Sikh confederacy, a formidable leader emerged. At Ranjit Singh's birth on 2 November 1780, 12 important misls existed: Ahluwalia, Bhangi, Dalnewalia, Faizullapuria, Kanhaiya, Kraurasinghya, Nakkai, Nishania, Fulkia, Ramgarhia, Sukharchikia, and Shaheed. In 1799, Ranjit Singh was appointed as the governor of Lahore by Zaman Shah, the ruler of Afghanistan, establishing his official authority. By 1805, Ranjit Singh acquired Jammu and Amritsar, bringing both the political capital, Lahore, and religious capital, Amritsar, of Punjab under his rule. However, British policy toward Punjab grew more assertive after the threat from France diminished. When the Napoleonic danger receded, the English became more assertive in their Indian policy. Ranjit Singh, recognizing the shifting balance of power, had to adapt his expansion strategies. Ranjit Singh agreed to sign the Treaty of Amritsar on 25 April 1809 with the East India Company, accepting the river Sutlej as the boundary line for his dominions. This checked one of his most cherished ambitions to extend rule over the entire Sikh nation. With his eastern ambitions blocked, he redirected his energies westward, capturing Multan in 1818, Kashmir in 1819, and Peshawar in 1834. Political necessity continued to shape his relations with the British. Political compulsions forced Ranjit Singh to sign the tripartite treaty with the English in June 1838, further limiting his sovereignty while providing temporary security. The delicate balance of power Ranjit Singh maintained collapsed rapidly after his death. The death of Ranjit Singh in 1839 unleashed forces that had been held in check by his strong personality and leadership. Without his unifying presence, the kingdom began to fragment, creating opportunities for British intervention as court factions struggled for dominance. Discontent grew among troops due to irregular payments. The appointment of unworthy officers led to indiscipline. Military campaigns caused economic dislocation throughout Punjab. The absence of a strong leader like Ranjit Singh created a power vacuum that various factions attempted to fill, leading to court intrigues and unstable governance. Dalip Singh, Ranjit Singh's minor son, was proclaimed Maharaja with Rani Jindan as regent and Hira Singh Dogra as Wazir, creating a vulnerable power structure easily manipulated by internal and external forces. This internal instability set the stage for conflict with the British, who had begun to concentrate military forces along the frontier. The anarchy in the Lahore kingdom following Ranjit Singh's death resulted in a power struggle between the court and the increasingly powerful local army, creating a volatile situation ripe for conflict. Suspicions amongst the Sikh army arose from English military campaigns in Gwalior and Sindh in 1841 and Afghanistan in 1842, suggesting a pattern of territorial expansion that threatened Punjab. The increase in British troops stationed near the Lahore kingdom's border created tension and was perceived as preparation for invasion, prompting preemptive action from the Sikh forces. These tensions soon erupted into open war. The war began in December 1845 with 20,000 to 30,000 British troops facing about 50,000 Sikhs. Due to treachery from Lal Singh and Teja Singh, the Sikhs suffered 5 successive defeats at Mudki, Firoz Shah, Buddelwal, Aliwal, and Sobraon. Lahore fell to British forces on 20 February 1846 without resistance. Despite their defeat, Sikh resistance continued in subsequent battles. The Battle of Ramnagar, led by Sir Hugh Gow, the commander-in-chief of the company, set the stage for the larger conflict and demonstrated Sikh military prowess despite eventual defeat. Fought in January 1849, the Battle of Chillahala was one of the hardest-fought encounters, showing the continuing effectiveness of Sikh forces despite leadership problems. The decisive Battle of Gujarat took place on 21 February 1849, after which the Sikh army surrendered at Rawalpindi, and their Afghan allies were chased out of India, ending Sikh independence. The political consequences of this conflict were far-reaching. The immediate cause of the war was Mulraj's revolt in Multan. When Sher Singh was sent to suppress it, he instead joined the rebels, leading to a mass uprising. The war ended with the annexation of Punjab, for which the Earl of Dalhousie was promoted to Marquess. A 3-member board comprising the Lawrence brothers and Charles Mansell was established to govern Punjab. The annexation of Punjab marked a turning point in British consolidation, achieved through both diplomacy and warfare. The East India Company extended British control from 1757 to 1857 through to approaches, direct military conquest and strategic diplomatic policies. Warren Hastings established buffer zones to protect company territories, evident in the Maratha and Mysore campaigns. Protected states received military support against external threats at their own cost. Wellesley's subsidiary alliance policy evolved from the ring-fence system, reducing Indian states to dependent entities while preserving their nominal sovereignty. This system of alliances became a cornerstone of British expansion without formal annexation. The subsidiary alliance system was employed by Lord Wellesley, who served as Governor-General from 1798 to 1805. This system evolved from earlier practices, with the first formal precedent being the 1765 treaty with Awadh. By 1787, the company began restricting allied states' foreign relations in treaties with the Nawab of Karnataka. Under this system, an allied Indian ruler was required to accept permanent stationing of British forces within his territory and pay for their maintenance. The ruler also had to accept a British resident in his court. This arrangement severely undermined Indian rulers' autonomy. Allied rulers could not employ Europeans without British approval. They couldn't negotiate with other Indian rulers independently, severely limiting their diplomatic autonomy. In return, the British promised protection from enemies. The British also promised non-interference in internal affairs, though this promise was rarely kept in practice. Hyderabad in 1798 and 1800, Mysore in 1799, and Tanjore in 1799 were the first to accept the subsidiary system, setting the precedent for future agreements. With each passing year, more princely states were brought under British influence. Between 1801 and 1804, Awadh in 1801, the Peshwa in 1801, Berar in 1803, and Sindhia in 1804 joined as British influence expanded across central and northern India. By 1818, Rajput states like Jodhpur, Jaipur, Macheri, Bundi, Bharatpur, and the Holkars, the last Maratha confederation, all accepted the alliance. The system evolved from offering military assistance to fighting alongside allies, then demanding money instead of troops, and finally imposing high protection fees that often resulted in territorial cessions. This gradually stripped Indian rulers of power while maintaining an illusion of sovereignty. However, when diplomatic manipulation proved insufficient, the British turned to more direct methods of annexation. Satara was annexed in 1848 under Appa Sahib. Jodhpur and Bundelkhand was annexed in 1849 under a local chief. Sambalpur in Orissa in 1849 under Raja Narayan Singh. Baghat in Madhya Pradesh in 1850 under a local ruler. Jhansi in 1854 under Gangadhar Rao. Nagpur in 1854 under Raghuji III. Awadh in 1856 under Wajid Ali Shah. These annexations were legitimized under a new controversial doctrine. The doctrine of lapse stated that an adopted son could be the heir to his foster father's private property, but not the state. It was for the paramount power, the British, to decide whether to bestow the state on the adopted son or to annex it. This policy effectively prevented the traditional Hindu practice of adoption from maintaining succession in princely states. Though this policy is attributed to Lord Dalhousie, Governor-General from 1848 to 1856, he was not its originator but rather its most aggressive implementer. 7 states were annexed under this doctrine, with Awadh being annexed in 1856 on different grounds of alleged misgovernance, completing the British territorial expansion in pre-1857 India. These aggressive policies, both diplomatic and military, laid the groundwork for the massive unrest that would soon erupt across India in 1857. We hope that you have understood the topic. To watch more videos and study effectively, check out the EduRev app and website.